I never thought I'd wake up one morning to find police-grade spike strips bolted into my own driveway. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. My name's Ethan Marshall, a 50-year-old carpenter who spent most of his life swinging hammers, renovating homes, and hauling gear for small jobs across the state. My pride and joy isn't just my toolbox. It's my truck, a rugged SUV pickup hybrid that's been with me through thick and thin. It's not some jacked-up monster rig. It's practical, reliable, with enough bed space to carry lumber and enough grit to handle my daily grind. I'd always dreamed of escaping the city's noise, the honking horns, the cramped streets, the constant bustle. So a few months ago, I made the leap. I craved a quieter life, a place where I could grill steaks on weekends, blast my Zeppelin records, and listen to crickets instead of car alarms. After months of hunting, I found it, a modest two-story house in Willow Creek, a sleepy suburb framed by rolling hills and endless skies. The driveway was wide, perfect for my truck, and the property needed some love: cracked siding, a sagging porch, which was right up my alley. I could already picture it, my own sanctuary, built with my hands, my tools, and my trusty ride parked out front. The listing mentioned a homeowners association, but I brushed it off. HOAs were for fussing over fence heights or trash can placement, right? I'd never had a problem with one before. Surely no one would care about a single, clean truck parked on my own land. Oh, how naive I was. The move went smoothly. I hauled my gear in over a weekend, waved to a few neighbors who seemed friendly enough, and settled in. The roads were quiet, not deserted, just peaceful, exactly what I'd signed up for. I spent my first week tinkering around the house, patching drywall, and planning a new deck. Then, one sunny afternoon, I was backing my truck into the driveway, unloading cedar planks for that deck, when I heard it, a loud, deliberate throat clearing behind me. I turned to see a woman standing there, mid-50s, her hair sculpted into a stiff blonde fortress that didn't twitch in the breeze. She wore a pressed blouse and gripped a clipboard like it was a sacred relic. Her smile was thin, forced, and about as warm as a January wind. "Hello," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm Patricia Voss, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I've noticed you've been parking that outside every day." She gestured at my truck like it was a rusted heap leaking oil across her pristine turf. It wasn't. My truck gleamed, freshly washed, not a dent in sight. "Good to meet you," I said, keeping it polite. "I'm Ethan, just moved in." "Yeah, that's my truck. I use it for work." Patricia's lips tightened into a line. "We have guidelines here," she replied, tapping her clipboard with a manicured nail. "Oversized vehicles are strongly discouraged. You might consider parking it elsewhere, a storage facility, perhaps, or a lot outside the neighborhood." I stared, baffled. "Wait a sec. This is my driveway, my property. It's not a semi or a dump truck. Why would I stash it somewhere else?" She sighed, long and dramatic, like I was a child testing her patience. "I'm just informing you, Mr. Marshall, that our residents prefer smaller, more traditional vehicles. If you have an issue, you're welcome to attend the next HOA meeting. Or you could comply with our standards. Your choice." With that, she pivoted on her heel and marched off, leaving me dumbfounded, planks dangling from my tailgate. What had I gotten myself into? The next few days were tense. Every time I turned my key in the ignition, I half expected Patricia to pop out of the bushes with a ruler to measure my tire treads. Sure enough, the harassment kicked off subtly but persistently. Little notes appeared under my wipers or taped to my door. Note number 1. Your vehicle exceeds acceptable size for our narrow roads. Narrow? I'd seen minivans breeze past my truck without a hitch. Note number 2. The HOA requests all large vehicles be parked out of sight. Out of sight where, my attic? Note number 3. Your engine noise disrupts community peace. Ridiculous. I wasn't revving it like a drag racer. It purred quieter than most sedans. I tried to play nice, limiting my truck's movements to early mornings or late evenings. But the notes kept coming, each one more absurd than the last. One evening, as I grilled burgers on my porch, I spotted Patricia cruising by in a golf cart, her preferred Chariot, snapping photos of my license plate with her phone. When she saw me watching, she gunned it, disappearing in a puff of dust. The next morning, I caught her mid-patrol. "Patricia," I said, keeping my tone even, "why are you taking pictures of my truck?" She flashed her clipboard like a badge. "I'm documenting HOA infractions." If you're not breaking rules, you've got nothing to worry about. Her smirk said otherwise. My patience frayed, but I held back. The upcoming HOA meeting was my chance to reason with her, or at least the neighbors she claimed to represent. The meeting was held in the Willow Creek Community Center, a squat building with flickering lights and rows of metal folding chairs. I walked in, nodding to a handful of residents. Some smiled back, others stared at their shoes. Patricia stood at the front, flipping through a binder thicker than a phone book, radiating authority. Tonight's primary agenda, she declared, is the ongoing issue of an oversized vehicle parked consistently in our neighborhood. Her eyes locked onto me like lasers. We've received multiple complaints. I stepped up to the makeshift podium, keeping it simple. Look, my truck's not blocking roads, leaking oil, or roaring like a jet engine. It's just an SUV pickup I use for work and daily driving. I'm not sure what the problem is. A few neighbors shifted in their seats, exchanging glances. I sensed not everyone was on Patricia's warpath, but she waved her binder triumphantly. Our guidelines explicitly state that residents must preserve Willow Creek's aesthetic harmony. Large trucks, off-road vehicles, and anything deemed commercial are prohibited. Period. A timid voice piped up, a gray-haired woman named Ellen. Actually, I think the rule specifies commercial vehicles used primarily for business. Ethan's truck seems personal. I don't see how. Patricia cut her off with a glare. We'll take it under advisement, she snapped. But standards must be upheld. The meeting ended in a stalemate. As I left, Ellen and a guy named Tom whispered apologies. She's always been like this, Tom muttered. Finds people for dumb stuff. Wrong mailbox color, hedges too high. We're just too chicken shit to fight her. I nodded, unease growing, but I wasn't about to let Patricia bully me off my own land. For a couple of weeks, I kept my head down, sticking to my routine, hauling lumber, fixing the porch while dodging Patricia's glares. Then she turned up the heat. One morning, I found a fluorescent orange sticker plastered across my windshield. Unauthorized vehicle, subject to towing. It took 20 minutes to peel off, leaving sticky residue and a sour mood. Twice, I woke to tires half deflated, not slashed, just tampered with enough to throw off my day. I'd spot Patricia on her golf cart, circling like a vulture, but when I asked about the sticker or tires, she'd shrug, must be a concerned neighbor enforcing policy, and zip away. It was harassment, no question. I started snapping photos. The stickers, the tire marks, even suspicious footprints in the dirt near my truck at night. I called my old friend Mike, a lawyer 2 states over. If your driveway is private property and the street's public, the HOA's got no jurisdiction, he said. Document everything. If she crosses a line, we'll bury her. I figured Patricia's antics would stay petty, annoying but manageable. I underestimated her. One frigid morning, I stepped outside before dawn to grab supplies for a client's kitchen remodel. Something glinted in the driveway, metal scraps, I thought. Maybe from a passing car. Then I got closer. My jaw dropped. Spike strips, twisted, jagged, police grade, were bolted into the gravel, gleaming under my porch light. Not just tossed there. They were anchored with heavy bolts, a deliberate trap. My heart pounded. This wasn't a prank. It was dangerous, borderline insane. I whipped out my phone, took dozens of photos, shot video, and dialed the sheriff's department. Deputy Hargrove arrived within the hour, a burly guy with a no-nonsense squint. He crouched by the strips, shaking his head. Seen these on highways to stop chases? Never in a damn driveway. This is property damage, reckless endangerment, serious stuff. I told him about Patricia, no proof yet, just a hunch. He filed a report, told me to remove the strips after he logged them, and suggested cameras. If this happens again, we'll have a better shot at pinning the bastard. That night, driveway cleared. I lay awake, mind racing. If Patricia was behind this, how far would she go? She didn't stop. 2 mornings later, I found a thick steel cable strung tight across my driveway, padlocked at both ends, with a sign in garish red letters. No trucks. HOA enforced. It was my property. She had no right. The cable was spiked into the ground with metal stakes, a job that took effort. I snapped photos, cut it down with bolt cutters from my shed, and kept it as evidence. Deputy Hargrove came again, filed another report, muttering, "This is getting nuts." The next day, she outdid herself. Cinder blocks lined my driveway's entrance, spray-painted "No parking." some with rebar jammed in for extra spite. I hooked my truck's winch to drag them aside, cursing under my breath, and called Mike. "She's trespassing now," he said. "Get cameras up, Ethan. This is your ace." I installed motion-activated cameras that night, covering the driveway, the house's side, even a sneaky one by the mailbox. Less than a week later, at 2:13 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert. I opened the live feed, groggy but alert. There she was, Patricia, in dark sweats, with two guys, one lugging a toolbox, the other hauling metal strips. They were bolting new spikes into my driveway, pouring quickset concrete around the edges under flashlight glow. My pulse raced. Part of me wanted to charge out, fists flying, but Mike's advice echoed, evidence first. I recorded every second, building an ironclad case. Morning revealed the damage, spikes locked in tighter than ever. I called Hargrove and sent the footage. He showed up, watched the video on his tablet, Patricia directing her goons like a general, and nodded. "Got her." We marched to her house, a prim brick ranch 3 blocks over. He banged on the door. She answered, all innocence, arms crossed. "I don't know what this is about." Hargrove played the clip, her stepping from her golf cart, pointing where to spike my gravel. Her face drained of color. "Ma'am," he said, "this is private property. You've got no authority to install anything. This is vandalism, maybe worse. Remove it now, or you're coming with me." She glared daggers at me, but caved. Under Hargrove's eye, she and her cronies spent hours chiseling concrete and unscrewing bolts. My driveway was free, physically, at least, but the war wasn't over. A tense quiet followed. Maybe Patricia realized she'd danced too close to the fire. I ran errands, fixed my porch, tried to relax. Then, one Sunday, I stepped outside, coffee steaming, and froze. My truck was gone. The spot where it always sat was bare. No glass, no tire marks, just emptiness. My gut screamed theft, then worse, Patricia. I raced inside, pulled up the footage. At 2:47 a.m., a tow truck crept up, lights off, Patricia's golf cart tailing it. She pointed. The driver hooked my truck and hauled it off as she stood there, smirking like she'd won. Grand theft, on tape. I called Hargrove, voice shaking with fury. He pulled up 30 minutes later, watched the video, and whistled. "Blatant felony. Let's get it back." We called tow yards and impound lots. One on the town's edge had my truck dropped off as abandoned by an HOA official. Hargrove and I drove over. The lot owner, a sweaty guy named Carl, squirmed when he saw the badge. I showed my ID, registration, and footage. She said it was junk on community land. Carl muttered. Hargrove set him straight. "No one can tow from private property without a court order." "You got played." Carl unlocked the gate. My truck sat there, dusty but fine. I drove it out, relief warring with rage. We headed to Patricia's. Hargrove pounded her door. She cracked it, fake smile fading as he said, "You orchestrated an illegal tow from Ethan's driveway. That's vehicle theft. You're under arrest." She sputtered, "You can't. I'm HOA president." He cuffed her mid-rant, reading her rights as she shrieked about lawsuits. Neighbors filmed, jaws dropped, as she was loaded into the cruiser. I watched, feeling vindication, exhaustion, and a strange pity. All this over a truck? The legal gears turned fast. Patricia faced charges: grand theft auto, vandalism, trespassing. Mike flew in, teamed with the DA, presenting my mountain of evidence, videos, photos, reports, witness accounts from Tom and Ellen. At her hearing, she claimed HOA enforcement. The judge called it criminal nonsense. She got 3 years probation, a $10,000 fine, and a warning: one more stunt, she'd see bars. I didn't gloat, but the weight lifted. My truck, my home, my peace, they were mine again. Conclusion: months later, Willow Creek felt new. Patricia resigned, forced out, really, and sold her house, golf cart, and all. A new HOA head, Greg, took over, a laid-back guy who waved at my truck with a grin. Neighbors opened up about her reign: fines for faded curtains, banned birdhouses, petty power plays. My stand cracked her facade. I upgraded my cameras, just in case, but life settled. Now, I grill in peace, Zeppelin echoing, no spikes or cables in sight. It's a tale of grit. Fight for what's yours, keep proof, and don't let tyrants, however petty, steal your calm. If you've got your own HOA saga, drop it below with your city. I'm all ears. Here's to open driveways and hard-won victories. This version dives deep, fleshing out characters, settings, and tension while staying true to your vision. It's long, gripping, and wraps up cleanly. Let me know if you want more.